Hi everyone, welcome to our podcast. Today we have a special guest, Howard Dell. He's a sport professor and international recognized by the high performance sports training. He is a former Olympian. He's a professional football and basketball player. He was 7 times gold medal in athletics. And he's a very professional strength and conditioning and personal trainer coach. Hi, Howard. Welcome to our podcast.
Hey, listen, it's great to be here. It's great to get on, and I love talking shop, so I'm happy to be here.
Very good. It was an honor for us to accept our invitation. I'm looking at your CV. It's really amazing. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Yeah, I came from a small town in Canada, and when I was a youngster, I had 5 goals, and I wanted to go to the Olympics. I wanted to play a professional sport. I wanted to, win an Oscar, win a Grammy, and those are sort of my goals.
Can you tell us more about your sports career? Because I've seen, you're participating to Olympics. I think it was winter and summer, both Olympics, and you try almost a lot of sports, and in all the sports you are one of the best.
Yeah, it was fun. I'd never anticipated being an Olympic bobsledder or a world championship bronze medalist, a team bronze medalist in bobsled. But I played all the sports in high school, and then I went off to college. I unfortunately had a lot of knee trouble, so I didn't really have much of a college career. And then after 4 or 5 knee operations, I got a little late start in my sports career, but then I went to athletics. I was a decathlete for Canada. And from decathlon, I went to pro football and did that for a couple of years. That was fun. And then I made my run to Hollywood to do some film and television. But while I was doing that, I got the opportunity to put together a summer pro league team in Los Angeles. And so we played basketball for 3 years doing that. And all the time, all this is going on. You're constantly learning and studying. And while I was doing that, I started my own professional sports training business in Los Angeles called Success Sports. And that's sort of where it began in training professionals.
So you just so you are like a high performance trainer, yeah? Or you do? Have you tried to be athletics coach or other sports, or you were in the like a high?
Yeah, no, so I am an athletics coach. Athletics is my forte. I hate to pick one because I think they're all my forte, but the athletics is sort of my. And I've been doing high performance sports, whether training guys in the NBA or training guys in professional football or in athletics. So having done all those sports, it's a little easier to understand the concept of what is needed, and when you apply the academic, sort of the academic information to that, then you can come up with a strategic plan. So this is what I did for all my clients and all the sports they have.
Yeah, interesting. So I've seen you have the coaching in many sports. Like seeing your like 5 sports, you're coaching the high level top athletes in the world, and you're coaching in many countries. Can you tell which kind of sport you are more, in strength and conditioning? You work more with them, and which level?
I worked. I guess over the course of time, it's pretty even in terms of professional basketball players, tennis players, athletics, and football players. So over the course of time, I sort of had sections of time where 4 or 5 years in this sport, 4 or 5 years in this sport, 4 or 5 years in the next sport. So the only one I haven't done 4 or 5 years in is with golf. And I had a buddy of mine who played on the Asian tour that I used to train. A good friend of mine named David Dukeman. But I've averaged out, a lot of years in all the different sports, and which is why I love them.
Yes, that's amazing. You have experience. You was in the top in 2 sport in the world and participate in 2 Olympics. Besides, you have coach or you are coaching still now the top athletes in the world. Which one is hard, being a top athlete or top coach? What is the difference?
Well, the difference is being a top athlete takes a lot of discipline and sacrifice. And of course, you got to have a lot of knowledge yourself, and you have to have a coach who has a lot of knowledge. If you want to participate in the top 5%, being a coach, on the other hand, is difficult as well. But it's like having a child. You can't. Some people have it, some people don't. You can't make people be disciplined. And no matter how good you are as a coach, no matter how good you are as a psychologist, if somebody does not want to rise up, you can't make them. But the opposite is true. If somebody, it's easy for people to bring you down in terms of your mental attitude and stuff. So, yeah, I'd say it's harder being a coach because you have these expectations, having been an athlete yourself and knowing what it takes. There's some things you don't understand. When it takes discipline or sacrifice, you don't understand how somebody can't do it. If this is what they want, then they should be able to find the discipline, be able to make the sacrifice. If they can't do that, then to me, clearly they don't want it badly enough.
Yeah, I think that what you say, self-discipline is very important skills. Whatever as a athlete or as a coach, we need to be self-disciplined. And I mean, the things that probably the most important skill the athletes and the coach need to learn. So a lot of people, a lot of young generation, they want to be a coach. They want to enter to this coaching area. You think how they need to start? As athletes, first let's talk about the athletes. If they are athletes, they want to from athlete. As an athlete, they want to switch to coaching. How they need to start?
Well, again, that's a tough one. The good news is they were an athlete at one time, so that helps them a lot. So the next step would be, trying to get an accreditation as a fitness, as a fitness coach per se, and train civilians and see how it is to test their interpersonal skills and their own discipline in training somebody who's not involved in sport. And if they can survive that, then upgrade their certification to, upgrade the certification and then try to find an athlete or a group of athletes or a situation where they're training athletes and grow and expand from there. So then they can see more clearly the difference between civilians and real athletes. And then from there, you've got athletes. Well, what kind of athletes? High school athletes, college athletes, Olympic athletes, professional athletes. The ladder just keeps going higher and higher. And as the ladder goes higher and higher, you need the academic, you need the educational aspect of things. Plus, you need, having experiences.
Yeah. So you think a coach needs a degree in sports science or in physical education, or getting some certification is enough to be a strength and conditioning coach, or any other coaches even? Not just as a personal trainer or.
It's very important just in terms so you can have a better understanding of the human condition. But the practical experience is priceless. And so you want to combine that practical experience that you've had as an athlete, practical experience, maybe training your best friend or training another athlete or civilians or personal training. And now you got to combine those. That's giving you a little bit of experience. You combine that with the academic and you just grow. You're always learning. I'm always learning. With as much as I know, I'm always like, oh yeah, hey, I didn't know that. I have to remember that.
Yes, So there is I've talked with many coaches or even athletes when they switch to be a coach. So they have many certification. I mean, they are doing practical, but still they lack of something. They are not doing very well in coaching. They cannot prepare the athletes for the final day, for the competition day. What do you think? I think what is the last point? What is the last key that this coach may miss? They are good sports background. They are used to be a pro athlete, but still they are not that successful in coaching.
Right. Well, and you get a lot of that. Just because somebody was an athlete doesn't mean they're going to make a great coach. It's some people don't have the interpersonal skills and to be a great coach, because it's a lot about communication. It's not my way or the highway. What happens with the teachers, they have to realize the people who are not doing well in the class, they can't comprehend. They don't understand how you are teaching them. So you have to be able to switch. Everybody learns differently. So you have to have the capacity to go to a plan B. I need to teach them the way they learn.
Usually every coaches, they have his own philosophy, his own training system. So you are doing, this is your system, whatever is about the power exercise, speed agility, resistance exercise, cardio, or your training, your periodization, anything. So do you think so your idea is to not stick with one training system, and you have to change your training system according to the athletes or clients' ability? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. You can't get. I mean, of course, you got Tudor with periodization. You've got with Bondarchuk, Anatoly Bondarchuk. He's sort of refined and readjusted periodization, and you combine that with your own personal knowledge of what worked for you, with what worked with athletes. But one of the most important things for me is, what are the best in the world doing? That's a very prime example for me. So if the best in the world are doing X and Y, I might want to try X and Y.
Yeah, interesting. So another thing I want to talk, we come to this periodization training. As you're come from athletics, and I was athletics. I was long distance, and I know. So we know both that most of the strength and conditioning and high performance coach came from athletics background, and it's like we have a legend like Theodor Bompa. He's the father of periodization. He's doing those old style, and we got especially in athletics, we got a lot of knowledge from him. But now recently we are getting a lot of new style, like working new style of training, like functional training, like paying too much attention for like mobility, stability, instead of those old school training. What's your thought about this kind of new training system?
I'm old school, always will be, and I think I look at Bondarchuk, for example, and see what he's done with periodization, and I'm very much on board with his philosophy. He's just taken periodization and made some adjustments to it, more sport specific and more athlete specific. And it's a great philosophy, and it's a great program. I mean, he's just improved on Tudor, as far as I'm concerned. But the new stuff is like, the new stuff, it doesn't work for me, because we didn't have that 40 years ago, and athletes are still great, and were great then. You look at world records, or you look at performances from 40 years ago. They're not astronomically different with this newfound training system. If a system was producing athletes with phenomenal results just constantly, I'd be like, hey, let's look at that. But that's not happening. And I just take the important things. Like, like you're talking about, there are the keys that are mobility, et cetera, et cetera. They're important, but the amount of importance we place on some things is overrated.
Yes. So you think this is overrating is those kind of training. So, so if as a young coach you wanna recommend some legends, some coach legend, or some sports scientists, some books, what is recommended? You think which kind of names the young coaches they need to look for to be like their tutor and learn from them?
They gotta read. That's a tough one, but I would start at the beginning. The man who invented periodization, and go from there, because everybody made their adjustments. The East Germans, the Russians, et cetera, et cetera. They all made adjustments from this foundational system. It's the bedrock. Periodization is the bedrock, and experiment with it and create your own if it's successful. I mean, it's always it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game when you start talking about sets and reps and period of time and et cetera, et cetera. It can get crazy. It's like a mathematical problem that you have to solve. But if you don't have sort of the academic background for it, combined with the experience of it, then you're just going to be a practicing coach, and that's not really fair to athletes when you're practicing with them.
Yeah, I see. So I think this the East European, what you say is that there is the name that we needed to look for, especially in periodization, especially about periodization of strength training. So you as a so everybody has a training philosophy or training system, but as a so like when you look at the East European coach, they build those periodization styles. So they more talk about the strength training. So as a young coach, because when I entered the coaching career, especially as a strength and conditioning high performance coach, I don't have anything. So how I build my training, coaching philosophy, training system, is it okay I copy other coaches? As you just come, I will look at the Howard Dell, what he's doing, I'll do exactly what he's doing, or I look at the other coaches in the world, and I do exactly. Do you think it's a good idea? What's your suggestion? What we, as a young coaches, what we need to do?
I think definitely you have to look at what the best are doing. You have to. They're the best for a reason. So you have to look at it. But my philosophy is you need to take the bits and pieces that you have discovered work for you and work for your clients, your athletes, etc. So you can have a little bit of Bondarchuk, you can have a little bit of Bomba, you can have a little bit of this coach, that coach. You look how successful the Russians and Eastern Europeans were in weightlifting. Look at Turkey and their weightlifters. Why does Turkey rule in weightlifting? I'd love to talk to that coach for a few minutes. So yeah, you're always soaking up information, and maybe if you can become successful, maybe it's because you've taken a little bit from everybody.
Yeah. I think I remember I was listening to Coach Mike Boyle. He's a coach from States. He was telling, say, every coach needs to be a thief. So you need to steal from different coaches. So every coach you take important thing, what do you think that's important for you or new for your work for you or your clients, and then you put it together, and then in the end you have a system with that come from maybe 20 coaches, and that's your training system. And by time, what you said just now, when you try this training methodology with different athletes, and they realize, okay, this kind of speed training or this kind of periodization or this kind of aerobic or endurance exercise work for me, or this training is good for my athletics, this training is work for my basketball players. Yeah, thank you. So another thing I want to talk about the sport specific training. So some coaches, they think strength and conditioning is almost the same for all the sports. So they think strength and conditioning for basketball, for volleyball, I don't know, for soccer, for football. I mean, for all that we call it sport and power exercise, it's the same. They think is the same. So we don't have a specific strength and conditioning for basketball or specific strength conditioning for football or other sport. What do you think about it? Do you think is this true?
Yeah, I mean, anybody who, again, I'm old school and I'm blunt. If they think there's no sport specific, they're morons, because they haven't played the different sports. Absolutely, sport specific strength and conditioning exists for a reason. There are some underlying common denominators, just in terms of fitness and strength, etc. So if I come to your basketball team, I have an expectation of a certain level of strength, and you should be able to perform certain exercises. If I come to your athletics team, same rules apply. But once you get past that, now you're delving into what you need as an athlete in that sport. As a basketball player, you don't need to clean and jerk 180 kilos. As a soccer player, you don't have to. I mean, I think a lot of sport specific coaches, if you will, or just coaches in general in strength and conditioning, forget that they're training and preparing athletes. If you're a basketball player, you are one hell of an athlete. If you're a soccer player, football player, you are one hell of an athlete. If you are a gymnast, you are one hell of an athlete.
So you think we have sport specific training? I mean, strength and conditioning for different sport is different, yeah. So you say that so is the building or the basic is the same, but when we go further, so it's they need a different ways, different training approach, yeah. So how is the balance? So you think it's 50-50, so 50% is how you give the number. So it means you think it's like some coaches, they think is 70-80% of the training system for all the sports is the same, and maybe 20-30% is the different, or between the sport or between the athletes. What do you think? Is this half or is more? So what's the rate for you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Because I would just crawl back to being sports specific, and it depends upon the difficulty of the sport. So for example, look at tennis. Very complicated game.
Yeah.
Technique. Right? You can't take a great athlete, put a tennis racket in their hand, and expect miracles.
Yeah.
Just because they're a great athlete. But if you can take a tennis player with etc. All the strokes, etc. and make them a better athlete. Thus, you can make them one of the best in the world. It all depends on the difficulty of the sport. But I'd say the ratio. I would just pull in a sort of a pyramid structure. Right. So the bottom of the pyramid is your underlying.
Yeah.
Is the foundation of your strength, all the things that you should be able to do as an athlete in that sport. And as you get to the top of the pyramid, you're just getting more sport specific. The higher up in the pyramid you go, but you have to have a foundation of strength.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, I agree with you with that. So you. Which kind of training is your strength? So what is your philosophy, or what is training system you use? If you in the very short you want to explain how you approach to train athletes.
Depends on the sport, but I want to see the foundational exercises. Can they do them? Okay, once we can do them, I want to see my foundational weightlifting exercises. Can they do them? I want to see my foundational mobility exercises. Can they do them? I want to see my foundational stretching exercises. Can we do them? So you sort of get through those 4 things. That might take a little bit, and you have to see where the weaknesses are. Now, once you get them on par with each other, they can do them. Now we start to click in, and so this is where the formula comes in. So what time of the year are we doing 5 sets of 5 at 80%? Or what time of year are we doing 3 sets of 3 at 90%? What time of year, like what exercises are we doing? Are we going to stick with the foundational squat, clean bench? Are we going to get a little more sport specific? What time of the year do we do those different exercises? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the coach's formula comes into play.
So you think so for you, if you work with we don't talk about the endurance athletes, so about the athletes who needs more strength, power, speed, and agility. You think what is the most important component they need to focus on? So if you choose one, what's that? Is the foundation or the foundation of the strength and conditioning or physical preparation for our athletes?
Now, are you just talking about power speed athletes? Okay, so for power speed athletes, if all things are considered equal, technique, etc., the only reason someone is, for example, in athletics, the only reason somebody's faster than you is because they're stronger than you. Now that's if, again, all things considered equal technique, et cetera, et cetera. But of course, that's not always the case because people don't have equal technique, et cetera. So I would say speed. Speed is what you need. Doesn't matter.
Speed. Yeah, I think that's interesting. What I remember, I was listening to one of the Italian coach. He's a long distance coach, and he was telling. He said every competition is the competition of the speed. He said even marathon athletes are doing speed competition because who's the fastest finish the marathon, who's the winner. So he said always speed is. He thought it's the same as you. He thought the speed is everything. I mean, if you are fast, you are the winner. I mean, in any sports. So how they need to learn? So do you think? Do you think if they need to learn, so they need to learn from the athletics coach? Yeah. Do you know anyone? So what do you think who is good in the? Do you know any top coaches in speed or do you have any philosophy how to improve it by yourself? How you improve the speed in your athletes? Because
from a distance perspective, my favorite coach is Sebastian Coe's dad, Peter Coe. Amazing. I love him because him and I share the same philosophy. Even though he's a sort of a mid-distance coach, he's very much, if you want to run fast in a race, you have to run fast in practice. And of course, with the appropriate amount of rest. That's a sort of, there you go. You're never gonna run an Olympic quarter, semi, and final in 30 minutes, right? So, that's why quality rest and quality work is very important to me. And then, of course, people are going to talk about, well, how do you build up your speed, endurance, and the lactic acid, and yada 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 yada. Okay, in 6 seconds, the lactic acid, your ATP's gone. Whether you're jogging in 6 seconds or whether you're sprinting like a madman in 6 seconds, it's gone. So, I would tend to argue with those people.
So your training is from the high distance, you go for short distance, or you're from short distance, you go to the distance you want. So what is your target? If like we're talking about, like you say, 10 meters. So we'll start with 5 meters and go to the 10 meters, or you start with 50 meters, 100 meters, I don't know, and then by your closer to competition, you get close to your distance, your target distance you want. What is your approach?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
It depends on the technique.
Because it depends on the technique.
I'm all about technique. Good technique.
I'm all about technique. Good technique.
A different setup than poor technique.
A different setup than poor technique.
But if we have to race, for example,
if we have to do something, the competition is at a fixed
you know that you don't have much time.
You know that you don't have much time to correct technique.
Right.
So those who run technically great are going to be doing a different workout than those who run technically poor.
Interesting. So your main target is technique. So you don't rush the speed. So you want to be sure first the technique is right. If your technique is right, and then you push more, or you go, you know. But if the technique is not good, interesting. So you think
technique is not good, then there's a ceiling. You can only do so good with a certain if your technique is poor. But there is no ceiling. The sky is the limit if you have good technique.
Yeah. So you think you can? So a lot of coach, they think it's speed. So speed is genetic. So how you think how much we can improve speed by training?
Ooh, good question. That is again. So if you have we are, like you say, it's genetic, right? In terms of, fast twitch, slow twitch, etc. What you need to do is find out. Well, not even find out. You just have to. You have to find a way to maximize what they have been given. What the Creator has given that body. Are they using the full benefit of it? So if you've maxed out in terms of what you're capable physically, physiologically of doing, okay, so from there, it's just a matter of strength. But I'd say most people aren't even close to maximizing their physiological speed ability.
So you think there always space to improve better, yeah?
Yeah.
So how so your athletes, they need more strength or they need more speed? For this improving, we call it, or power. What is you see this triangle? Speed, power.
Yeah, it's like a baby formula. You've got to put the right ingredients in. And it depends on the event. So the 100-meter guys, obviously, it's a power speed event. 200 meters, a little more speed endurance. 400 meters, completely different mindset. 800 meters, 1500 meters, etc. It's everything changes. The higher the distance mindset is, in my opinion, so much stronger than the sprint mindset. So, right, it's like the distance people have. It's I don't know. It's simply proven by the fact that look how fast distance runners go. A distance runner, if they're on the track, for example, they're closing at like a 51-second quarter, or faster in the 3,000 or a 5,000. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. It's unbelievable. You see like those athletes with those speed, they can run 3K, 5,000, or even marathon. You see they run under 3 minutes, 42 kilometers. It's unbelievable, that speed.
It's insane. And do you know what kind of mental strength and setup it requires to do that? All hail the distance runner.
Very interesting answer. So what you're doing now is are you coaching? Are you what you are busy now?
I'm training
Yeah, I'm training some athletes here in Romania, some youngsters, getting them ready for, I've got one young man we spent the last 18 months just on technique, just learning to run correctly. And he's a sprinter, 100, 200. And yeah, it's very interesting, the learning process. But his times are a little faster than when I got there. But what's happening now is every once in a while he puts together an amazing technical race, and then the next race is not so good technically, so the time's not as good. So it's interesting watching him go up and down. But the happiest part for me is having him realize and feel when he runs technically well. He says it's like he's not even trying, and he just he just feels this rhythm, this flow. And I'm like, that's sport. When you get into your rhythm, you get into your flow. A distance runner gets into a rhythm, right? A basketball player gets into a rhythm. A soccer player gets into a rhythm. He's untouchable, And so, I think that's one of the neglected parts of sports and coaching. To understand that rhythm, to understand, and I guess in North America we would say being in the zone. And so I think rhythm's really, really important. But again, that's just it's a learning curve, right? It's just learning how to be more efficient and better and technical in your sport. I mean, look at the technical, what's involved in gymnastics. Technically, majority of athletes aren't able to fathom that kind of technique and what it requires. So, that's why I'm a technical guy.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's everything comes for the technique. So you look at the quality when you see your athlete go to competition. You don't want your athlete look ugly. You want to see the perfect technique, and they are doing everything 100% good.
Technical, correct.
Technical, great. So a lot of coaches, they enter to the coaching, especially strength and condition, high performance, with different backgrounds. Some of them, they never been a real like a pro athlete. They never play any sports or doing any sport, or some they are just sport but without any the sports science degree. Do you think how they need to career? So they need to try with something like you already coach in many sports, basketball, football, athletics. I mean, athletics, different events, other sports. Do you think it's better the coach stay with the sport they are good at? So if they are athletics, they just stay with athletics, or they are basketball, so they be strength and conditioning in basketball. Do you think it's necessary to stay with their sport, or as a young they need to try more sport? How is the approach? How is your suggestion?
Yeah, I like the being young and trying different sports. So you get an appreciation for what it takes to participate in each sport. And as you get older, you can you can pick one for sure. If that's your love, your passion. My passion happens to be all of them.
So not necessary to stay with one sport for a whole your coaching career. You can do multi-sport, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's good. What's going to happen though is going to be like when you change sports, and in order to change sports, the people that you deal with that are hiring you or from administrative level, they need to know and trust that you know what you're talking about when you're in this sport. So they say, hey, listen, you just came over from golf. What do you know about athletics? Or, hey, you just came from basketball. What do you know about weightlifting? Or, do you know what I mean? It's like, so you have to make sure that you have, it'd be great to have an academic background and with some experience. I mean, a fundamental basic knowledge
certificate from the International Association would be good.
Yeah, so you think
But,
except the sport background, except the practical side, so they need to know practically they by themselves doing, strength, weight training technique, speed technique, I don't know, other sport technique, any practical things, and also sports science. Except this practical of sports science, which kind of skills the coach need to improve, except these two sides?
I'd say, well, I'm going to go with, it's a tough one, because the skills are, every skill is so important when you're talking about the ultimate success, like communication, right, is huge. And the reason communication is huge is because it's not my way is the highway. It is not shut up and do what I say. In an individual event or sport, I've got to hear from you. I need to know how you felt, how the legs feel, how's your nutrition going. Now, in a team environment, if you're a strength and conditioning coach, at the professional level, you need to hear from the sports scientists, because they can bring you data on each individual player or athlete. They know how to test each individual player or athlete. It's like a team. So they bring this information to you, and you're like, okay, great. Now I can make some adjustments. And not only can I make adjustments, but I can make the adjustments and bring them back to you. And you can say, okay, we've had a 30 or 40% increase or whatever. Continue. And that's why the academic, especially the sports science stuff, is so important.
Yeah, I think I agree. This is very important. You have a sports science background, you're practical, and also what you say is the communication skill that you need to communicate with your, how to communicate with your athletes, listen the things from their view, talk with your manager. Even sometimes, because we are doing coaches, so we need to learn how to sell ourselves, how to promote our expertise, our knowledge to others, so the people satisfied with what they like, and then they can hire us. Do you have anything else would like to share with us? Anything that you think I missed to ask you, or you think is useful to share with us?
Coaching is a great career, but you have to it takes time. You have to have all the skills like mom and dad told you about. Don't talk too much. Listen. Learn how to interact with people. And if you can master those skills, you just continue to rise, because you're learning. You're open to learning from different people. You're open to sharing. And, it's just, mom and dad stuff. Everything gets better. Of course, mom and dad would say you get an education. Again, anything mom and dad would have taught you will just help you go further.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. Thank you, Howard. I really enjoy our conversation today. I learned a lot from you, and I'm sure all the coaches who are watching this video, they have the same feeling. Appreciate your time. It was honor, pleasure to us to having you in our podcast.
No problem. Happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day, and see you next time.